So even more mayhem with staff issues really blowing out even further. I thought last week was crazy, but this week I turned up to BizGear and there was no one in the main office. The people that were able to come to work today were out doing deliveries. It was end of month, last day of the month, so there were some deadlines that needed to be met on the delivery side of things. But we had another person away today. So this has again highlighted the need for just this one simple little role, the driver's role, and how disruptive it is for this particular business to be short in that area of the team. So we do have a job ad. So far we've had 72 applicants, which doesn't surprise me for the kind of role that it is. And what also doesn't surprise me for the kind of role that it is, that we've had a ton of people that just don't even qualify for what we're looking for. And for example, a requirement for this role is we need somebody who can not only drive a van or a small truck, but who has a forklift ticket. And of course, we're getting a ton of applicants from people who don't even have a forklift ticket, which is just annoying because as an employer, as all of you employers out there know very well how frustrating it is to be sifting through a whole ton of job applications from people who just don't qualify for the job, even though it's all clearly spelled out in the role, in the job ad, in the role description, what you need. You still get a whole bunch of people applying, but that's just one of the hassles of modern life. So that being said, though, it does look like there are a couple of people who are potentially suitable, so it's promising. And we do want to get into the interview phase as quickly as possible because we need to fill this role, and the sooner we can fill that role, the sooner we can get everybody back on to focusing on the growth of the business and the fun stuff, rather than just coping with the day-to-day. So, and because of this disruption, the person who I was going to be sitting down with and going through to develop the actual role description for the driver's job was out doing a delivery, which supposedly we've now got him locked in for my meeting with them next week, but I've heard that before. So another interesting thing though was I mentioned ChatGPT several times, and these guys are really into ChatGPT, which is great. It's a terrific tool, but it definitely has limitations. It even to the point where it actually has the potential to lead you astray, because the owner of BizGear asked ChatGPT to create a role description for a driver, and ChatGPT spat out quite a good, what would typically be considered a pretty decent role description with appropriate requirements. But from our point of view, from the Third Gear's point of view, from a business consulting point of view, it's miles off what you actually need to get the performance levels that you want out of your organization, because a lot of that performance comes through the clarity that's provided within your role descriptions, because those then link back to your business processes and critically back to the individual key performance indicators of that role. And yes, even a driver has KPIs, and in fact some really important critical KPIs, particularly for this business. And obviously they then lead back to the business's KPIs, which ultimately determine the business's performance in terms of revenue, profitability, and efficiency. So it was interesting seeing what GPT spit out for this role description, because it was way below the standard and missing some significant elements for what I would consider to be fundamentals for getting a role description right and fitting that properly within your organisational structure. That having been said though, I've seen professional level HR focused role descriptions very similar to what ChatGPT has put out, but it's also an issue that I personally, a gripe I guess that I've had for some time with traditional approaches to role descriptions, and they end up being a list of motherhood statements with no accountability and no real clarity in terms of how outcomes are meant to be delivered and how processes are supposed to be followed within an organisation. Another story, but a really important part of the story. So next week, hopefully, I'll get a chance to document that, and even though they are probably going to be doing some interviewing, the goal is ideally that we will have the role description properly defined before our new driver starts, because the goal that the business owner and I both agreed is worth having is that we won't be, any new person that we bring into the business will be brought in with a properly structured role description along the lines of how I just described, that a proper role description should be structured, and he sees the benefit in that. I took him through this in one of the elements of our software system that we provide for our clients, has a staff performance management element to it. And I took him in and showed him how it measures the performance of the individuals and how that links back to how the system can actually give you general trends on how the whole business is actually performing, in terms of how all the team members are performing, both individually and as a collective, and can give you trends on how the performance, on what the overall performance trend is for your whole business. So he's pretty keen to get to the point where he's using that. A good outcome that we got today, we've had a bit of hesitancy in putting together the case studies, which are a really important part of what we want to do with the business development side of the business. And they just haven't been clear on really how to go about starting that process. And so I realised today that there's really only 3 or 4 very basic things that they need to be paying attention to be able to build out these case studies. So we just threw together another spreadsheet today, which is then going to tie back into the sales meetings, and it's just got 4 simple questions on it that we can be asking the reps in the weekly sales meetings, just around when they've quoted, who they've quoted for, what products they've quoted, and the variances in pricing that they've been able to produce for their clients. So we can start getting some examples of legitimate cost savings that have been delivered by BizSmart to their clients. And all they really needed was just a framework to be able to capture it and progress their results. So they've now got that. Took us about 5 minutes to put that spreadsheet together. We've gone through supposedly how they're going to integrate that into the sales meeting. It was already in the agenda. So, but the key is allocating the actions, recording them, and then following them through on a week-to-week basis, and doing that properly, and getting the reps into the habit of properly following up on their actions, which is a part of the evolving process of actually getting the sales meeting format working correctly for the business. So progress there, which is potentially going to be beneficial down the track, because another thing that we've looked at is we're starting to look at developing the new client acquisition system. And again, ChatGPT was quite handy in making a list of recommendations on how they go about that. There's some good structure to it, but again, needs some refining, but it's a good basis. I think ChatGPT is beneficial in terms of it's not the ultimate solution, but it can easily knock 20, 30, 40% of the time and the mental effort out of a lot of processes in terms of just developing plans or writing documents and basic business management processes and things like that. It's really helpful, but at this point at least it still needs a high degree of human intervention to get it to a level that's really going to deliver proper value to a business. And so for the final thing, we have our other sales rep that was back today. It was his first day back. The sales targets for the month were just missed, which wasn't surprising. I was kind of hoping they were just going to nudge in there, but they just fell short. Now, that being said, they actually exceeded what used to be their old targets, so we are seeing growth, but not to the standards that we've set that we would expect with the new approaches to sales that we put in place, that we are putting in place. The good thing though is it's a new month. New month starts this week. We went through and did a detailed mini plan for how we want to kick the reps off, what we want them focused on. There's 3 months before before the next planned annual leave for our reps. So this should give us a window to really generate some good momentum over the next 3 months with the sales actions and activities that we've got planned, and we should now be able to get some momentum behind it, because we were starting to build that momentum up, and then one of our 2 reps went away for 3/4 of the month, and so we just want to bring them back in, refocus, and really get into properly implementing the tools and the processes that we've been developing over the last few months. And so that pretty much covers it for this week, and I'll update you in the next one.